Passive income is a good thing. It helps you cover your rent, groceries, salaries, and other fixed costs that you have on a monthly basis. As Robert Kiyosaki, the famous financial guru, once said, wealth is a person's ability to survive so many number of days forward. If you stopped working today, how long could you survive? A popular option for passive income is real estate. But real estate comes with its own risks. Landlords are stressed out, for example, when tenants are not paying maintenance, when tenants are not paying rent, when tenants are not vacating the property, when stubborn tenants are taking advantage of old people, NRIs, and just taking advantage of the fact that they are in possession of the property. But thankfully, there are legal solutions as to how to get a tenant to vacate a property or to get rentals. This is How to Evict a Tenant by Ramana Reddy. Take Karthik. Karthik is a local businessman. With several years of hard work, he has purchased two properties. He has purchased a commercial property and he has also purchased a residential property that he has leased out to two different tenants. For the commercial property, the rent is 1 lakh per month and it is protected by a registered lease deed. On the other hand, for the residential property, the rent is 50,000 per month and the lease deed is unregistered. Karthik is now stressed. Both tenants have not paid rent for the past 12 months. He has been in constant touch with them and these tenants have been making false promises to pay. When despite these promises, rent has not been forthcoming, he threatened them to vacate, but now they have stopped responding to his calls and have stopped speaking with him. He is stressed out, he feels powerless, he wants to approach the courts, but he is worried that the lease deed for the residential property is unregistered, and he is also overwhelmed about the court costs and procedures. When Karthik spoke to his close friend Naveen about the issue, Naveen told him that the court process is not as complex as he thought, and he knew several cases where landlords have successfully evicted tenants and have gotten rental dues using the court process. What Karthik needed, Naveen said, was a lawyer who specialized in civil litigation. He could help Karthik to kick out tenants out of the property and also squeeze pending rent from them. When Karthik met the lawyer explained the process to him in simple terms. He said that evicting a tenant is like trying to remove a guest from a party who refuses to leave. If they leave politely when the party is over, no problem. But if they overstay, eat all your food, and start making a mess, you can't just drag them out immediately. You have to first warn them, then call security, and if they still refuse, you might even need to go through a whole formal process with the venue management. Similarly, landlords can't just kick out a tenant overnight. They have to follow legal procedures, give notices, and sometimes even go to court before they can finally reclaim their space. So far as the commercial property is concerned, Karthik was told that since there was a registered lease deed in place and rent was not paid for the past 12 months, all Karthik had to do was follow the terms of the contract. Following the terms of the contract is like following a recipe in a cookbook. If the recipe says to bake a cake for 175 degrees Celsius for 30 minutes, you don't get to decide halfway through that you'll bake it at 250 degrees Celsius for 15 minutes instead. You just follow the instructions as written. Similarly, if the registered lease agreement states that to evict the tenant for non-payment requires 2 months of missed rent, a formal notice, and a 1-week grace period before filing a case for eviction, you must follow that exact process. You don't get to skip steps or change the terms. You just apply the contract as it is written. Karthik was happy, but he had other concerns. How long would this court case take? He heard that court cases drag on for years. And what would be the cost? He was advised that insofar as time is concerned, filing an eviction case against a tenant is like being stuck in a long case over an inheritance. You know it will take a year and a half to 2 years before you finally get full ownership of the property, and that uncertainty is stressful. But say roughly within 6 months, the court allows you to collect rental income from the disputed property while the case is ongoing. You still don't have full control, but the biggest issue, that is cash flow, is resolved. The legal battle continues, but at least you're no longer financially suffering while you wait. Now, if the other party in the inheritance case refuses to follow the court's order and stops paying the required rental income, the court penalizes them by striking off their defense. This speeds up the case, leading to a faster judgment in your favor. Similarly, in an eviction case, within 6 months of filing the suit, you can obtain a court order requiring the tenant to deposit rent while the case is pending. If the tenant fails to comply, their defense is struck off and the eviction suit is completed even faster. What initially seemed like a long and uncertain process now becomes more manageable. Either Karthik gets rent while waiting, or he gets possession of the property much sooner than expected. Next, as far as cost is concerned, he was advised that while professional fee of lawyers can vary, the court fee is approximately 1% of the rental dues, but this is subject to change from state to state. Insofar as the residential property is concerned where the lease is unregistered, Karthik found that since the lease was unregistered, he could just issue a notice to vacate. He also found out that the fact that the lease was not registered was not a big problem. And instead of waiting for a longer period, he could issue a notice, give a grace period of 15 days, and if the tenant did not vacate or pay the rent, he had to follow more or less the same process as was the case with the registered lease deed. After receiving counsel, Karthik got it. He understood that while the case could take time, his cash flow problem could be sorted and that an unregistered lease deed would not be a problem.